Welcome. I'm Katie Cornell, the Executive Director of ArtsAVL, and I'm going to take you through our new event support grant. So the City of Asheville has contracted with ArtsAVL to administer the event support grant on behalf of the City of Asheville. The program provides a competitive process for nonprofit organizations to receive financial support for events that are free and open to the public and permitted within Asheville's streets, parks, and outdoor public spaces. It's also our hope that it's a very transparent process moving forward. The program's goal is to preserve public arts and cultural programming within Asheville's outdoor public spaces through the provision of financial assistance for community events that promote cultural heritage, diversity, and the creative arts. Proposals that increase the exposure to the arts and promote a high quality of life for residents within the community through arts programming will receive priority. And I promise I'm not going to read every slide moving forward. So grants typically range between $3,000 to $10,000. This could be more or less. This is just historically the funding support that the city has offered for through this program has fallen between $3,000 to $10,000. An important thing to note is each organization can only submit one application. And so if you're applying for multiple event series, we'll talk a little bit more how to do that as we move through this presentation. And then, of course, the deadline to apply for this grant is October 2nd. So let's talk a little bit more about the timeline. So as I said, the grant opened on September 5th and closes on October 2nd. Then we will start the application review process. It is our hope to have that completed by mid-November. And at that point, you would receive your notification letter, whether or not you receive funding and how much. This grant is for events that take place within the 2024 calendar year. So the earliest events that could happen, funded events that could happen, would be in January. And then within 60 days of the completion of your event, you will need to submit your final performance report and your reimbursement request. And it's at that time, after we have reviewed those, that we will issue your reimbursement. And of course, all of the events must be completed within the 2024 calendar year, so done by December 31st. So we'll talk a little bit more about eligibility and requirements. The event producer must be a nonprofit 501c organization. So they could be a 501c3 or a 501c6. And they must have been in operation for at least a year by the time of application. Nonprofit organizations must have a physical presence in Buncombe County by either conducting business or providing services within the county. Events must be free and open to the public. They have to be permitted through the city's special events office. So you're still going to need to apply for permitting and dates and all of that through the special events office. And they must be in-person events within outdoor public spaces in the city. And as I've already mentioned a couple of times, this is for events that take place in 2024. And so your events must fall within the 2024 calendar year. Also, you will be required to submit a final performance report and your reimbursement request within 60 days of the completion of your last event or event in the series. So allowable expenses. Grants, as I mentioned a couple of times now, funding is dispersed on a reimbursement basis. So you will pay your permitting fees and other fees up front. And then upon the completion of your event series, you will apply to us for reimbursement. This is the way the city prefers it to be done. If this presents a financial hardship for your organization, let me know, reach out to me, let's talk through it. On a special case-by-case basis, we may be able to make some exceptions. Grant funds are restricted to reimbursement again for specific city fees and charges. And that is outlined within the grant benefit calculation worksheet that the city has created. And so those fees are application fees and alcohol permit fees, property use fees, street closure permit fees, temporary use permit fees, transit impact fees, barricade and cone rentals, and parking closure fees. An important thing for you to note, if you are applying to do more than one project or event series within your application, you would need to complete a worksheet for each one separately. Now we're going to cut to a video with John Philman from the city of Asheville to walk you through exactly how you fill out your grant benefit calculation worksheet.
Hello, my name is John Philman. I'm the Community Event Manager with the Office of Special Events. I'm here to walk you through the grant benefit calculation worksheet. If you need assistance beyond this tutorial, please schedule time with me one-on-one and I'll be happy to help. To begin, please open the Outdoor Special Event Guide from our website at asheville.nc.gov/special events. That'll help you walk through this application for the grant calculation with me and understand what the fees and why they're charged. To begin, we'll start with the administrative fees. And to do that, we'll have to come up with a scenario where we're considering an event that happens on 2 consecutive Saturdays that has 1,000 people per day. It will have alcohol. And so that automatically tells us it'll be a level 2 application. We're going to also select that, yes, alcohol will be included, and that will be sure that your alcohol fee is included in your quote. Next section is transportation department fees. We're going to close Court Plaza behind the stage at Pack Square Park's Roger McGuire Green. So yes, we'll need that closed. It does not matter how many dates are on the application. 2 consecutive dates still receive 1 street closure permit. Are any street closures on public transit routes? There are no public transit routes on Court Plaza, so we can answer no to that. If there were public transit routes impacted, we'd want to say yes so that that fee can be included in our quote. Parking spaces impacted. I'll clear these numbers real quick and tell you that there are 21 parking spaces behind the stage at City Hall. I just happen to know that off the top of my head, but you would probably want to take a walk down any street or any park if there's any metered or marked spaces that you'd like to be closed to make sure you get these calculations correct. In this case, 21, we would say that there are, say, 15 standard parking spaces, 4 ADA parking closures, and 2 loading zones. But we're doing this event for 2 days, so we need to multiply this by 2. And that one will make sure that all of our parking fees are covered in this grant quote. Public Works Department. They provide traffic control barricades for events. And at Court Plaza, we'll need 2 barricades to close the entrance, one for the entrance to the Court Plaza street and one for the exit. We often think of it as also as a parking lot, but Court Plaza is a street. We'll only need 2 on the one end since it's a dead end. Otherwise, we would need 2 on each end, 1 for each travel lane. So in this case, we would need 2, but we multiply that. So we would need a total of 4 traffic control barricades for this application. And we would like to have 10 traffic cones per day to help us with setup and blocking spaces for vendors and for parking. And so in this case, we're going to say we need 10 per day. So we'll make it that a 20 traffic cones that we'd like on this quote. Property use fees. So since this event will not be 2 consecutive days and rather be 2 consecutive Saturdays, we're going to be setting up and tearing down 2 times. And so that means we're going to have a 2 under the first 3-hour block because we'll be charging that first 3-hour block 2 times. If this were an event that would happen on a Friday through a Saturday, we would only need 1 3-hour block, and then we would calculate all of the hours from setup through teardown consecutive through there. In this case, we're going to have 2 setups. So we'll have a number 2 for the first 3-hour block and then a 10 for the additional hours. This event will be 8 hours per day. So this totals a total of 10 hours plus 6 hours, which would be the 3-hour block here, for a total of 16 total hours for the 2 days that we're doing this 8-hour event per day. If you needed stage lights, you want to make sure you include the stage light hours for the total of the application, as well as spider box rentals, since most of the power at Pack Square Park requires spider boxes. We have as many as 7 spider boxes in the pavilion that can be reserved for an event. Carrier Park property use fees are not applicable in this case because we're not doing an event at Carrier Park, but if you needed any of these areas reserved, you'd want to make sure you include the total number of hours that you would like to have reserved on your application. If you're looking at any other park than the ones that are identified earlier, this would be a general property use fee. So you would put one for the first 3-hour block plus the additional hours from there. If there's any picnic shelters, you would want to put the number of days that the picnic shelter is reserved. In this case, we're not doing general park use fees, but this would be the area you would put any other park other than Memorial Stadium, Carrier Park, or Pack Square Park. And keep in mind, Pack Square Park is divided in 3 sections. So if we were doing this event that was using the full park, we would have to include these same numbers for the terrace and the square. So now we're finished with property use fees. We're moving on to Development Services Department fees. And Development Services issues permits for tents, stages, structures, operational fire, and electrical. If any of these elements exist at your event, you'll want to make sure you have one of these permits on your application. You only need one per application, just like the street closure permit. And so in this case, we're going to have 1,000 attendants per day. So we have a 1 in that field. But we're going to do this 2 different days. So we'll have to send the fire marshal out to inspect twice. It's not like a consecutive event where they'll come out once on the Friday and they will expect the event to remain the same through Saturday. They won't come out a second time on the second day. We're going to do this setup twice. So we need 1 reoccurring inspection fee. Since 1 inspection is already included in the temporary use permit, we'll need 1 additional inspection fee. At this event, we'll be using a diesel generator, so we need an electrical permit as well. But if you're plugging into existing power, an electrical permit isn't required. This is just for the addition of electric to the site. We're also going to have vendors cooking under tents with fire, so we need 1 operational fire permit per event application. And we're going to have a fire performance and a fire demonstration at each event. And so this one would require 2 permits for fire performance demo per demonstration per day. So in this case, we're going to have 2 for the first day and 2 for the second day. A total of 4 fire performances or demos will be conducted at this event. And then we'll calculate. We want to request at least $3,005.50 in our grant application to ensure all of these fees for our event are included. Again, if you have any questions on this form, I can help you fill this out very easily. Just schedule time on my calendar. You'll find that calendar scheduling link at the top of the grant application worksheet. You can also find that on our webpage at ashevillennc.gov/special events. Thanks and have a great day.
Okay, so now let's talk about how your application will be evaluated. These are the areas that we'll be looking at or reviewing within your application. So for the review process, all applications are initially screened by ArtsAVL staff. We're going to be looking at the completeness of your application first. So do you have all the information that you need? Is your application completed within enough detail where we think that that the selection panel reviewing your application will have what they need to review your application? If we think that this is not the case, we'll reach out to you and request additional information by a specific deadline. If you submit that information by the deadline, you will receive partial points in this category. If not, you will receive 0 points in this category. Next, we'll be looking at the eligibility of your requests. If all of the things that you're asking for are eligible for funding under this application, then we will give you your full 10 points. If only part of your application request is eligible, you will receive 5 points. And if none of your request is eligible, you'll receive 0 points in this category. Next, we'll be looking at feasibility. Does your event take place within the 2024 calendar year? If we believe everything will be completed by that December 31st deadline, then you get 10 points. If we think we're going to have to work with you in order to make sure that happens, you'll receive partial points. And if it's clear that your request is not going to be completed by that December 31st deadline, then you will receive 0 points. Also required with this grant is your final performance report, and which requires a certain level of evaluation of your events. And so if we think we're going to be able to get all the information that we need for your final report, then we give you a full 10 points. If we're going to feel like we're going to have to work with you to make the evaluation work and get the information we need for your final report, partial points. And if we don't think you'll be able to provide the evaluation required for the grant, then you'll receive 0 points. So if you receive a 0 in any of these 4 categories or a total score below 20, then your application will be marked as ineligible and will not proceed to the next round of review. Applications that do proceed to the next round of review the next part of the process is we will have 3 to 5 experts within the field reviewing the applications. They'll review and score the applications on their own individually with a score sheet that we provide for them. Then we will average those scores and they will meet as a group for a final selection evaluation in which we will select our final recommendations. So they will initially be looking at it for completeness. Do they feel like reviewing the application that they have a good understanding of your proposal, or do they think they need more information and they're missing key details? The next piece is how confident they are in the organization's ability to complete what they've proposed to do, both looking at the scope, the time restrictions, and the other resources necessary to complete the project. They will also be looking at the stability of the organization. Do they feel that the organization has the capacity to complete the proposal and the reporting requirements? Next, they're going to be looking at community building. This is, again, getting to that priority. Do they feel that this event builds community within Asheville? Looking at resident well-being, does this event increase exposure to the arts and promote a high quality of life for residents within the community through arts programming? And this resident well-being is receiving double points because, again, it is that priority. And so we are weighting that one in particular. We're also going to look at diverse impact. Does this event support diversity, inclusion, and accessibility? Diversity includes, but is not limited to, all races, ages, sexual orientations, gender identifications, socioeconomic backgrounds, and cultural beliefs. And then the next piece is accessibility. And so we want to make sure that these events are accessible to all Buncombe County residents. So is there adequate accessibility support for residents with disabilities, including physical, visual, hearing, and cognitive impairment? So as I mentioned before, we have a review panel of 3 to 5 volunteers. We have the guidelines posted on our website. If you go to artsavl.org/grants, you can see exactly what we are looking for and the requirements of serving on our selection panels. They will help us make our final funding decisions and recommendations. Panelists are expected to review the applications on their own, score them individually with the worksheet that we provide for them. Then we average those scores and rank them and meet with the panel in a final panel selection meeting and discuss and come up with our final list of recommendations. After we make those final selections and recommendations, we will send out award notification letters. And in those letters, all applicants will receive their average scores, as well as any additional notes that the panel wanted to pass along. So of course we want to set you up for success. So if you don't get funded this year, we want to give you the tools to get funded in the next year. So grant requirements, your organization, once you receive your award letter, if you receive funding, or if you're selected to receive funding, your organization will enter into a contractual agreement with ArtsAVL. So we will send you a contract through DocuSign, and both parties, both you and me for ArtsAVL, will sign the contract. Again, all events must be completed by December 31st, 2024. And grant funding, again, will be dispersed on a reimbursement basis upon the execution of your event. That will, of course, happen once you complete your final performance report and reimbursement request, which must be submitted to ArtsAVL within 60 days of the completion of your event series. So, important thing to note, if your final report is late, you will not be able to apply for funding in the next grant cycle. So you will have to sit out for a year. It's really important to submit these reports. It's not a complicated final report, but it's really crucial to keep this funding going in the future. So information required, we'll be asking for the event title, location, and dates of your event, the total attendance. This can be actual or an estimate, but we ask that it be as close to accurate as possible. The net revenue earned from the event. So the total amount of money earned from the event. Any challenges or on-site issues that we should be aware of moving forward. And the future outlook for the return, reduction, or expansion of this event. So we really want to understand, what kind of challenges and issues you're facing, as well as the positives, and get a sense of how this event might change in the coming year, whether it might have to be reduced or won't come back at all, or whether it's done really well and you're going to consider expanding in the next year. We ask that you please keep ArtsAVL staff informed of any project milestones or changes that happen. We are very invested in your success, and we want to share your story. And so any photos you want to share with us or big updates, we'd love to share it in our socials and our newsletter. Just keep us posted. And again, remember that you need to recognize ArtsAVL and the city of Asheville as sponsors for your event. So to apply, you will go to artsavl.org/ESG and click on the Google Form link. So when you navigate to artsavl.org/ESG, this is what you'll see. You'll have a nice overview of the grant and the application process, also the timeline for the event. And this is where you will find application support resources. So the application is right here to apply. There is a PDF also of the questions if you'd like to download and review before working on your application. We have the grant guidelines and overview for applicants right here. And this is where you will also see the video for this shortly. So if you need help with your application, if you have specific questions, please email us at hello@artsavl.org. We ask that you do not send us phone calls. We are a small but mighty staff, and we are not available to answer all of your questions immediately. So it's much better for you to send us your question in an email, and we will get back to you as soon as we can with the information that you need. Thank you, and best of luck with your application.